The impetus for us starting a podcast and rebooting the channel kind of came down to 5 fundamental reasons. To engender and stress the importance of civil discourse, to satiate our own creative desires, to strengthen our subjective deficits, to expand our knowledge and beliefs, and finally, to call out bullshit, which is what we're going to be doing this time around, because we're going to be talking about what I've coined as UABs, which is University Accepted Behaviors, because this week we're digressing away from UAPs. And that university in question this week is Sainte Anne's University. So for those of you who don't know, Sainte Anne's University is a local university based out of rural Nova Scotia. It's predominantly a French university. And those behaviors in question going on there has been a plethora of sexual assaults and allegations against the school. But it seems like, for some reason, I don't know, I'd like to get your guys' perspective on this. This is something that hasn't really hit mainstream media, even though the sheer scale of it is quite repulsive, especially when you consider it, because I don't know if you guys know this, St. Anne's is only a school of 400 people on average. So it's quite a small university that does have 5 campuses. I'd say one main campus and the other ones are more or less like satellites. But why do you guys think that, before we actually get into the allegations themselves, why do you guys think that this hasn't taken off as much as you think it would?
My main theory on that, and whether or not it's going to be close, probably is. But, like, how many universities or big schools, reputable institutions, even exist in Nova Scotia? So, what, like 3 or 4? 5?
It could
maybe?
be more of a we've got to keep the schools we have, so we'll sweep it under the rug.
Yeah, and especially when you get below Halifax, I only know of that one school, like for post-education. So if you have a post-education institution that's got a very bad reputation, and it's known worldwide, because I believe that a lot of their students are like foreign exchange.
You're correct. Yeah.
So if that is the reputation that the world perceives them to own, then maybe they'll get less people coming in, and then basically
eventually
devolve,
fall apart.
dissolve. So it could be politics.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's a big part of it too that I think it's exposing the deficit of the 24-hour news cycle, and that's something like this. I mean, there was a brief article on Global News, which is, for the most part, like a quite well-known news conglomerate out of Nova Scotia, and the main article we'll be using, which I think was kind of the impetus for all this coming out, was an article written for the Halifax Examiner, actually by one of the teachers that works at R. Kelly University. St. Anne's University. Sorry, it's those two things get mixed up really easily in my head. But another thing is, it's like, I'll juxtapose this to something like reading that Jimmy Fallon leads a negative work environment. Who would have guessed some affluent Hollywood piece of shit who's he's so far separated from what I'd consider like average people. No shit, he runs a toxic work environment. I mean, you see Ellen DeGeneres, for example.
I was just about to say he's the Ellen of...
Yeah, and his fucking synthetic laugh that's so full of shit. And you see that everywhere. Everyone's talking, Jimmy Fallon leads a negative work environment. It's like, no fucking shit, he leads a negative work
It's
environment.
kind of an obvious thing to see when you look at him, like you said. Like, he's rich, he's famous. He don't know regular, everyday things. Like,
it's funny because this is all new to me. I was not aware that he was a piece of shit.
Well, see, you're lucky because you abstain from engaging in social media and just the whole 24-hour news cycle in general, because you tend to research more abstract and metaphysical things, whereas I like to as well, but I always find myself reading through this stuff, especially because it ends up in like IGN and stuff where I go for most of my gaming news and that. But I got an interesting quote to read from you guys from the Sainte Anne's website. It says, and I quote, "The French immersion department is recognized as one of the best in North America. The excellent student/faculty ratio promotes a climate dedicated to learning and university spirit." Yeah, let's make an addendum to that and maybe add in psychological trauma comes free with every enrollment. And
So it would be a political thing then. Because if
Yeah.
that's a pretty bold statement to put
Best in
yourself
North
on
America?
a pedestal like that,
Yeah.
and then have these allegations kind of come out and no one really, or not,
You'd be
not a
losing
lot of
such a
people.
large
Yeah.
income to your basic income there
Yeah.
by letting it leak or not
Yeah.
covering it up somehow.
Might be why it hasn't been covered as much as it probably should have.
yeah, so before we get into the veracity of these accusations and stuff, just a bit of a preamble in that we've extrapolated these accusations from various sources, those being the Global News article. There's a RCMP press release. There was the excellently written article by Brian Gibson for the Halifax Examiner, and I spoke to two sources as well who used to work at the school. And as difficult as it might be, we're going to try to approach this as objectively as we can, because at the moment right now we have to stress that all the accusations levied against St. Anne's are just accusations. None of them have been proven in a court of law. But let's just say the overwhelming circumstantial evidence is quite damning. I also want to add that we've contacted various individuals from the school for comment. We've contacted Alistair Surratt, the rector and vice chancellor of St. Anne's University. We've contacted Chantal Dupre, if that's how you pronounce. I'm probably going to pronounce some of these names wrong, but personally I don't give a shit because they're fucking garbage anyway. Who's the director of residences. Sebastien Dole, director of student services and internalization. I don't give a fuck. Vice rector for administration. Magli Nazir Pingolin, director of human services or human resources, sorry. I also contacted the author of the Halifax Examiner article, Brian Gibson, which is a excellent article, and we have him to thank for all this coming out for the most part. So definitely go give that a read. But as of right now, you guys aren't going to believe this. No one got back to me. Can you believe
audacity.
it? Do they not know who I am?
It's been about, what, a week?
Oh, I contacted Alistair Surratt in those list of deplorables 2 weeks ago, but I contacted Brian almost exactly a week ago. Yeah, I think it's been 8 days since I contacted him. A lot of this is just their inability to approach the situation in a diplomatic way. I still think that they're surreptitiously trying to bury it and just pretend it didn't happen. Like, look away. No, it's not there.
Yeah.
Might as
No.
well be covering their ears with their eyes closed.
And that's why we need to bring as much attention to this situation as possible, because these types of people, that's what they want. And they're preying on people's truncated attention spans nowadays to hope this goes away.
Yeah.
And I can assure them we are not going to let this go away. And we are going to continue to follow up on this, and we're going to continue to probe for information. But my other belief is a bit less insidious, and that's I believe that they are embroiled in some legal disputes right now. And we can't really... Once you get lawyers and stuff involved in the law involved, they can't really comment to the press right now, because that could be a detriment to the case once it goes to court.
Could be like a multi-year process.
Yeah,
To do it in that time, like, you can't. If you say any like the wrong thing, it would incriminate yourself. Or
Exactly.
Like, it's
And once lawyers get involved, don't talk to no one. That's usually the first thing they tell you. So before we actually jump into the accusations, Aaron brought something up before we start recording, and just to go to show you how no one's talking about this, we're all the school is about half an hour away from us, and Aaron had actually not heard of this.
Not until, yeah.
I never
Until-
heard of this until you sent me that link.
I know this whole thing. It's
Which,
Like, that's
yeah.
how little it's
Yeah.
spreading and how well it's being
Yeah.
swept under the rug and kept quiet and hush-hush is that, like...
Like, I always assumed that it would be a thing. Like, I'm pretty sure this problem occurs on every campus.
Yeah.
Probably to different degrees.
But there's always a touchy-feely principal
Yeah, exactly.
or teacher
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah. It's just when it's so close to home, it's like you don't really think about it. It's like, oh, it
I
can't
think
be happening
universities in general are kind of a microcosm for this sort of mentality, but
there. Oh, God, yeah.
that's definitely some stuff we're going to get into a bit more down the road. So, as far as the accusations go, so this is going to be all new for Aaron. For the most part, pretty new for Mike as
Yeah.
well. And even most people that I spoke to, I know of around town, most local people don't know about this either. So, hence the reason why we're trying to bring more light to it. What little
As
light
well
we
it
can
should.
bring. Anyway, yeah, exactly.
It's such a dark situation, yeah.
So between 2015 and 2019, this is 4 years, at least, that's been reported, 53 sexual assaults / rapes have been perpetrated against students. 17 of these rapes were committed by a single perpetrator who was a student security guard from 2018 and 2019. In 1 year, he raped 17 students. So with a school roughly of 400 people, that's an average of 13.25 rapes a year.
And these are just the reported ones.
These are just the
Yeah.
reported ones.
Yeah.
The ones, so basically what happened was a coalition of students formed to call out this behavior. Because as we're going to get in here, the school did not address these at all.
Well, obviously not.
Not
Between 15 and 19.
Even close. And it gets far more insidious the more you go through this. Like, who the fuck is in charge of this school? The Epstein Foundation?
Like,
Yeah.
are they so worried about being able to hire somebody? Like, does nobody want to be a security guard there to the point where they're like, okay, if we fire this guy, we'll have no security at all? Because I'm starting to think no security would be better than a rapist security guard. Like,
Are they
I mean,
unionized?
I don't know.
No,
No,
I mean like the security guards.
No.
No? Because I'm wondering if
Something-
there's like a process where... Fuck, I don't know.
okay, we can't just fire him for raping
Yeah,
somebody. Like,
well,
how
no,
do-
like the... like kind of going back to... Like these are allegations where I'm assuming that nothing's gone to court yet for this individual.
Not yet, but there's going to be a bit more that we're going to get into here shortly once I go through the RCMP
Yeah.
article, which will give a bit more detail on what the RCMP knew about it.
So it could be like just straight up politics.
But it-
like they can't fire him for...
Yet.
Yeah, they need more.
But couldn't they suspend him?
you think?
I mean,
A decent person would be like,
well,
yeah,
no,
we
yeah,
need to
like,
go
no
on
matter if
vacation.
you're unionized or not, if you have such harsh allegations against you, like especially rape or murder or anything, they'll be like, okay, look, your presence here is detrimental to the overall image.
Yeah.
We need to remove you until we know for sure what's going on.
Yeah.
But they just kept him there, like, okay, so you have allegations against you.
Yeah.
You start work tomorrow at 7. Don't forget that. Like,
I mean, Christ, they're letting teachers go for less. So it's like, fuck. Like for just teaching
And
yeah.
the wrong...
You stared at a
things.
student too long.
Yeah, or
we
just
gotta let you
like
go.
you say something wrong and like that's not correct in class or something like that. That's like, well, you can go on.
Your shirt's too revealing. Are you staring at
week.
my breasts? No, I wasn't doing that. I'm going to have you fired. And then they're gone. But now you've got a security guard raping people and he's still there. Like, potentially, sorry, I guess.
And I want to add that your number one job when working in this environment, it doesn't matter who you are, especially, in my opinion, most of this is going to fall on the dean. Because your sole responsibility is to protect the students, and
Yeah.
you fucked up. You didn't even fuck up. This is, in my opinion, this is deliberate.
Yeah.
And you condone this behavior, and you're just as guilty as this piece of shit.
Well, here's the thing. Even if they are allegations, even if they end up not true, he's already set a precedent for it's acceptable. If you went out and killed someone and I called the cops and they do nothing, but you never killed nobody, but he wants to kill somebody and he's seen that I called the cops on you and, nothing happened. Well, now he can go do it and get away with it because you've already proven it's okay.
Oh, these people are incompetent.
Yeah,
I
you
can get away with that too.
Yeah.
This is
so that's what he's done.
This rape
Or she.
culture has become, in my opinion, the general ethos of the school. In my opinion, this is what the school should be known for, but getting a little bit ahead of ourselves at the moment. So we're going to break down the accusations by each news source. So we're going to talk about Brian Gibson's article first, and I took a few excerpts from there. So he wrote, "When I and my colleagues in English studies at University of Sainte Anne had started hearing about student victims of sexual violence from our student representative at departmental meetings," he puts in brackets, "our written concerns and suggestion received a tepid, unsatisfying response from the university's rector." No shit there. "But we had never heard about that serial rapist, and we had no idea of the sickening depth and breadth of the rape culture at the university." So right there, which I got to applaud Brian for this, because he's, in my opinion, he's putting himself and his job on the line, and he's probably putting a target on his back. So I'm kind of classifying him as a whistleblower.
But like you mentioned earlier, it's their hope that no one will say anything. So
it goes on to solidify the fact that the school was fully aware of these accusations, and they were so perfunctory in their fucking handling of this. I don't even say they handled it. They just didn't do anything.
yeah.
And you'll see how far this goes. Like, it's just, when you think it couldn't get any worse, when you say 53 people have been raped in 4 years, that's pretty bad. But then it just continues to get worse. It's just so fucking depressing. Brian goes on to say, it's a staggering number for a micro university with fewer than 400 full-time students. Worse, as sexual assaults are underreported, it's only a faint reflection of how bad the problem is at Sainte Anne. So that goes on to reference what we just mentioned a moment ago, where this is far more pervasive, and I think university is just kind of a microcosm of a much larger problem. But from what Brian stated here, this strongly insinuates that the school is fully aware of these crimes, and according to one of my sources, is the case. And according to some of my sources, it's definitely the case that they were fully aware of these crimes. That was almost like an open secret at the school that this was happening. But even the teachers themselves, like Brian stated, they weren't even aware of the full scale of this activity. Which, like I said, to me makes them just as culpable in these crimes.
So I'm wondering, too, another thing, because you said something about him being... I'm wondering if they know it was happening, but they assumed, or know, maybe, if it was someone else. Like, I'm wondering if they were like, okay, we know that, let's say, one of our highest paying, best teachers is doing it, so then when these accusations are being brung up, they're sweeping it under the rug because they're thinking in their head, fuck, we know it's that teacher, but he's the best we have, we've just got to ignore it, before they're even listening to who's being accused at the time.
The thing is, this isn't even a teacher, this is a security guard.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, okay.
But like, I'm wondering if they're sweeping it under the rug because it's a larger problem that they're aware of, but there's people involved they don't want to incriminate.
Oh, so okay, so you're getting at, like, it's not just the security guard.
Yeah. Like, usually if you have like a really highly
Yeah.
good, sought after, reputable teacher that you want to keep because that's what's bringing in your students.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be taught under this specific teacher. Like, if that person's involved, then you'll be like, well, fuck, maybe we should sweep it under so that it doesn't get brought to too many people's attention. Then we have to fire them. Then we're losing.
Yeah.
Everybody's coming to our school because they want to be taught by Mr. Bundy.
When I went to Algonquin in Ottawa, one of our teachers was let go because he was having relations with like 3 of the classmates, I think. Maybe 2.
Jesus
maybe just 2.
Christ.
But no, they to my understanding, they were consensual. So it's like, if they let him go for like something like that, then like you'd think a security guard with accusations of that would be like a sure, like, okay, yeah, you need to go, like, get the fuck out.
So obviously there is a much larger, complicated issue here.
Exactly. And we're just if they were unionized, I mean, don't get me wrong, I could understand why it might be more difficult for them to let this person go, because when you get unions involved, they have to build a case about it. Like I've seen unionized environments take a long time to get rid of a troublesome employee because they have to basically build a fucking Bible's worth of information against this person to have them dismissed. So we're not talking about someone who's unionized, though. They failed to take punitive measures against a security guard, a minimum wage security guard, whose sole duty was to protect the students, but instead he was a fucking predator. And we only, like I said, the number 53 is tentative. This is a number that can change, especially now with this petition out and the articles released by Global News, etc. I'm hoping that will galvanize more victims to come forward.
Yeah.
Because it's going to take a lot of people to bring these fuckers down.
What if he's like the Epstein of like Sainte Anne's? That'd be fucked.
That's basically what this guy is.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I know I'm going to get a little bit ahead of myself here, and I'm going to end up probably repeating it down the page a bit, but one of my sources, she said that the school was fully aware of what this security guard was being accused of, and they were still allowed to graduate. They were, to my knowledge, I don't even know if they were spoken to, but they remained on staff, and he basically was just doing it with impunity because he knew nothing was going to happen. But Brian goes on to state afterwards that he is unaware of how prolific rape culture is at the school until he starts speaking with more students directly. And because once he was made aware of this, he really started to reach out to the student populace. And the coalition formed by former and present students really kind of drove that home. And that's when he learned of the current number, 53. But like I said, it's a very tentative number that's subject to change.
Yeah, there might be people who are still a little abrasive to the idea of opening up yet.
Yeah.
Which then, after all that leads me to the RCMP press release, which just came out recently too. And the RCMP seems to primarily be predicating its inquiry on what's been stated in the petition. And probably we also have Brian Gibson's article to thank for this as well. They go on to say that they were only aware of 4 assaults reported between 2015 and 2023.
Oof, that still wasn't enough.
That's all the RCMP knew about. And the thing is, they don't state if there were any charges brought forth or not.
So even they're hiding facts, I guess.
So was the RCMP report that was after the Global News report from the teacher?
They posted it on
previous?
Facebook.
Okay.
And it was just essentially they had no idea about any of this.
But that was after Buddy came out with the article?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is all within the last like 9 months.
Just last month.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So
Brian Gibson's article came out September 1st.
Okay. I thought that was
very
like in January. Okay.
No, this
is like
all
super
very recent.
Okay.
But even then, when these 4 assaults were reported to the RCMP, I don't think any of us knew anything about it. I never heard anything about it.
No.
I mean, especially with 53, you two never even heard about it, and most people that I know of didn't know about it either. So that leads me to believe that this is going to get much worse as time goes on and more people feel comfortable, because typically when people endure something like this, the first response is, well, why didn't they do something about it? Why didn't they come out after that? It's like, well, because they're fucking traumatized And
Yeah.
usually when people incur this type of trauma, they're in a state of cognitive dissonance, especially when you're at school and you're trying to get your studies. And I have to assume that they're probably telling themselves, well, I just need to finish university. That's my focus right now. I can get through, I'll push this in the back. And that's just subjective, and a
Yeah.
subjective opinion. And from people that I know who have been personally affected by something like this, who have had this same sort of thing happen to them at not Sainte Anne's, at different universities. I've spoken to several people who have been victims of this, I'm just going to call it an ethos at these universities, which is rape culture. Because like it is much more pervasive, and I do have statistics to provide once we get to a bit further through this. But one piece of information that was provided was last month, a former Saint Francis Xavier University student launched a civil lawsuit against the school, alleging it enabled a predator and failed to protect her and other students. So right there just goes on to show that hopefully we're looking at a paradigm shift of how these universities tackle this issue, because it's not going to be something that can be done overnight. This is going to be something that's going to take a lot of dedication and a lot of reallocating certain individuals, or just kicking them out the fucking door entirely. But one thing that leads me to one thing that I do question is, it doesn't say if the 4 people that went to the RCMP are part of the 53 people who came out. So there's a lot of ambiguity with numbers and stuff right now, and how much of these people actually came out. And one thing we got to keep in mind too is that St. Anne's brings in a lot of foreign students from other countries come in, so they're even more isolated, which would also further prevent them from reporting these claims, because they don't know the area. They don't know anyone around here. Who the hell are they going to talk to? The only people that they have to talk to are the members at the school, and they don't give a fuck, and they treat you like this. This issue is more systemic, and it not only casts a negative light on the school, which I don't give a fuck about the school. In my opinion, the school should be rebuilt from the ground up internally. This is a stain on Nova Scotia. It's a stain on universities. And it's a stain on Canada as a whole.
And
we're pretty stained up right now.
This is one school.
Yeah.
This is just, like
a small school. So you get into like, say, Dal or Xavier, or fuck any, Ottawa U.
Well, see, it goes back to like, if other security guards, teachers at other universities see that this isn't being addressed, well, now it's okay to do it at my university and this university and that university. And as long as this never gets resolved, it's going to grow.
But it's also like, you got to look at, this is coming from one individual. Most of the petition and stuff like that is
It's
towards
one.
the security guard? Or is that
Oh, no,
in general against the school?
it's in general against the school.
Okay.
And
I was going to say, because a lot of the instances that occur on campuses are probably student to student rather than
There's a lot-
faculty to
yeah.
student, but there's
There's-
likely a lot of faculty to
there's-
student as well.
it's hard to say. Everything's circumstantial right now, but the sheer numbers and the sheer amount of people coming out, and the amount of people that I've spoken to, this has been an open secret at the school for a long time that they have never, in my opinion, tried to address. Yeah. And I think you guys will formulate the same opinion once we get to the school's response. And for those of you listening, I just did air quotes like a fucking idiot. But a lot of people don't, and that's the thing, a lot of people tend to, their immediate knee-jerk reaction is to question the victims, because some of the people coming forward, they've been harboring this for years and years. And I believe most psychologists and most therapists will tell you that things like this take a long time to metastasize, and a lot of these things wreak havoc on your subconscious. They engender a lot of shame and guilt, and will eventually psychologically cripple people. And sure, some people can bounce back from it, they evolve, but essentially you're killing the person they used to be, which, in my opinion, these types of acts committed against somebody is just as bad, at least when it comes to the way humanity and societies, I guess, treat crimes. In my opinion, this sort of thing should be treated with the same severity as murder.
Yeah, no, 100%,
Because you're
yeah.
murdering who that person used to be, you're murdering their sense of security, and you're murdering their trust. And these things will take years of therapy
Yeah.
and self-work before they can even try to come back from it, but they're never going to be the same person who they were.
No. Well,
And
that's one thing I've always thought. I know this is sort of well, no, it's off topic. I'll just leave it alone. But no, I agree.
And the fact that the school surreptitiously buried these reports and tried to pretend they didn't exist to save face goes to show that everybody at this school, everybody in any type of leadership position, or anybody who is aware of these acts, should abdicate their positions immediately. No question. No, don't
They
even
shouldn't be allowed to be in any type of leadership teaching.
Though, are
nothing.
there any other teachers like kind of at least attempting? Is there any indication
faculty
that
on their
other
side?
people are getting involved at the school in the faculty to address this and help? Because like my kind of thought on just how we're kind of pinning the whole school into one category, I'm wondering, like, maybe there's people who feel powerless in terms of like what they can do, and they may have tried and just gotten like shut down.
That's why I
So it's
said
like-
people who are aware of it
Yeah.
and did nothing, especially the ones in leadership roles. And I definitely want to emphasize the ones in leadership roles who had the ability to take the action.
Yeah.
So far, the only teacher that I know of is Brian Gibson.
Yeah.
Once he was made aware of it. And that's why I think that he deserves a lot of credit, because it takes a lot of balls
Yeah.
to come out against something like that in your workplace.
So wait,
and-
he's a teacher.
Yeah.
And
That's why I'm getting at, like, I hope that there be other teachers and faculty members that are kind of like,
Okay, so a
hey,
teacher
we
is
need to-
admitting to, okay, we have a problem, and they're
Yes.
still doing nothing so far.
Yeah.
If you guys want
You're fucking kidding
if you guys want an extra reason to be disgusted, Alistair Surratt, which is the dean or rector, as they're called at this school, had just had his term renewed.
It's got to be politics, man.
There's
There's
something,
no fucking way.
yeah, like
And that, in my opinion, that Kenneth Copeland looking piece of shit, he should be kicked out the fucking door immediately.
is he like
Because-
some 90-year-old decrepit guy, or like
I don't know. He just looks like meth Regis Philbin. I hope he fucking watches this too, because I want him to know that all of this falls equally on his shoulders as
yeah.
much as the people who perpetrated these crimes. Because
oh yeah,
from what I can
you're
tell,
just as guilty if you know what's going on, have the ability to stop it and do nothing. You might as well be doing it yourself.
because from what I can tell, he was fully aware of this, and he fucking sat back, probably raking in six figures.
Doing
Not giving a
damage.
shit.
And
damage control.
Just wait, I tell you here.
Oh, good.
There's more.
So I'm
But
gonna
wait, there's more.
Wait. It's really not something you want to hear in this situation, unfortunately.
No.
But so I'm going to get into some of the student anecdotes now. So I'm going to be sharing these from multiple sources. So these are stories that the student shared and provided in various different places here. I'm going to be starting with the one from Brian Gibson's article, and he spoke to a few students and started providing, I guess, some backstory on rape culture. He goes on to explain what rape culture is and how it's tying in to Sainte Anne. So let's start by extracting a few quotes from him here. And he says, "Rape culture is a society or environment whose prevailing social attitudes have the effect of normalizing or trivializing sexual assault and abuse. And it became chillingly clear to me that Sainte Anne had become a festering petri dish for this culture. That's quite scathing words from a teacher that works there, and I fully agree with him. Rape culture is when a student goes to the then head of residences, so not the current head of residences. I feel like I need to stress that. It's former head of residences. After the student security guard had raped a student in the residence where the security office is located. They requested the office be moved to the campus bar, and she's told if rape is going to happen, rape is going to happen. Oh, God. Let's just let that soak in for a minute. If rape is going to happen, it's going to happen. Picture something traumatic just happened to you.
It's going to happen anyway, so let's just let
That's
it happen.
like the cops going to your house, reporting a break-in, and them just saying, well, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Good night, and walking away.
Like,
leaving it there.
I
doing
really
nothing.
hope this person does not have children.
Oh,
because if that's the way you look at it, well, darling, if you're going to get raped, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Sorry. Let's just hope our, I don't know, police force don't look at murder the same way, and our justice system don't look at murder the same way. Well, if people are going to get murdered, people are going to get murdered. It is what it is.
Can you imagine if our healthcare system operated that way? Like, we'd still be
you
like
lost a leg.
bloodletting.
You're gonna die. You're gonna die.
Well,
Well,
sorry.
It's gonna happen.
If cancer's going to happen, it's going to happen.
Yeah. Fuck.
Anyway, thanks for sitting in our ER for the last 14 hours so you can get told to go fuck off and die elsewhere.
Here's an aspirin.
And one thing that bugs me is that there's no names associated with this. It's all just pseudonyms or their former titles.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you gotta think, like, if...
Well, yeah, we gotta think. They gotta fucking think.
But if you name... Like, throwing out any name will affect that person, like, whether you want it to or not. Like, even just people who aren't aware of these names are going to look up these people and be like, okay, now they might have people picketing their house. Like,
And in my opinion, they very well should.
Which should be, in theory, like, it is good. It's just if we do get something wrong, that's where it kind of goes.
Yeah.
Like the naming.
Yeah, you do got a point that this is a quote that, of course, it's a quote that can't really be substantiated if we look at it objectively.
Yeah.
But it's still very hard to read through this without getting fucking infuriated.
Yeah. But you have to look at it from, like, you have to eliminate the emotion looking at it objectively.
Yeah.
So that you don't start just name dropping people. And, I mean... I'm sure it's happened. It's likely happened.
And that's kind of the reason why I'm focusing so much on the dean.
Yeah.
And I'm putting a lot of blame on him because as the dean, you're responsible for knowing what's transpiring in your school.
And actually taking actions to stop it and protect students.
They're also under public domain. So those names, anyone can find. So, like, people like that, name drop all you want. But, like, when we start getting into, like, specific people, it's just like, ooh.
And yeah, that's the thing. His name is really the only name that we have currently to apply to these things. And I know I mentioned the head of residences earlier. I don't know if she was fully aware. She had to have been. I don't know how long she's been the head of residences, but still.
Yeah, there has to be a level of competency that, like, if you're unaware of these things happening and people around you are fully aware, that's like, you're supposed to know about this. How do you not know about this?
Yeah, so far no one has been judicious when it comes to handling this situation at all. It's just been a complete abdication of not even just common sense, but common fucking decency.
Yeah. So I have a question.
Shoot.
And it's about this. They're a small university, but on the same time, they're not a poor university, correct?
No.
Wouldn't they have some sort of, I don't know, security system in place, like cameras?
Boy.
But if the security if the security itself is compromised, you gotta think the cameras.
The minute
are
I'm
gonna
sorry,
be-
but if there's a rape claim and I find out the cameras are down,
We're going to get into that.
Oh,
Oh shit! Okay,
God damn it!
So
you're onto something, Aaron.
So I also
I
want to
mean,
add that
Batman.
there's two different types of security. I spoke to someone who used to work there, and he said there's two different types of security. There's regular security, who's responsible for making sure the school doesn't burn down. Then there's student security. So we're referring to student security when we're talking about this. And
it's
to
a
my
hall
knowledge,
monitor.
that the student security, which Brian does state that this program, I guess, has been disbanded since then. Student security was run by students,
He was a hall monitor. What
basically.
Okay, so are they hired outside sources, or do they go like,
I
okay,
think
he's
this-
a jock on the football
So
team,
it's-
he'd make good security.
I think the
let's hire
student
him?
security was a student. Like
So it
that's-
is student on student.
Yeah.
For that case.
But
Okay.
he was, and that's what leads me to believe this is even stranger. Was if, once again, I want to note that that's a part that I'm not 100% sure if that's how it functions.
Okay.
But to my knowledge, in the way Brian describes it in his article, is that it was students hired to do the student security. And when I was speaking to someone else, she said that this person was allowed to go on and graduate and not have any punitive
okay.
actions taken against him. So they could have just not let him do this anymore. But they didn't. They allowed, in my opinion, they've just allowed this to propagate.
Yeah.
I'm wondering about their thought process here now. Does it say where these rapes took place? Was it on campus, off campus?
On campus.
Okay, then yeah, they should have done
Yeah.
something. Because I was wondering there, like, what if he went to a bar and just did it in an alleyway?
Okay.
They might be looking at it like, okay, it wasn't on school property. We can't do nothing about it.
Okay, Aaron, this quote here, this anecdote taken from Brian's article, this is going to address your camera question.
Oh boy.
So Brian goes on to state in another quote, rape culture is when a student reports a rape to the student life office. She's scared to be on campus with the perpetrator still there, and they say they don't have enough proof and she should just go to the police because, quote, we don't deal with things like that here. When she then asks them to check the cameras showing him coming into her room at 2 a.m., they refuse. And this is all after the student has locked herself in her room for weeks, stopped attending classes, was crying every day, had internal bleeding, and was in constant pain for the first few days. After telling them what she's been going through, the student hears, you can write a report if it makes you feel better. Why? How fucking magnanimous of you. Thank you. Let me go write the report with my blood.
Feels better.
If it makes you feel
Okay,
better.
I am not going to lie. It is very hard to be objective hearing this shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, my blood is boiling.
Like whoever that was dealing with that.
The student life office.
Yeah. Fuck that person.
I hope they get in an accident and somebody, when the paramedics show up and they're asking for help, they just go,
Just write a report.
just write a report. Yeah. I'm sorry, you're going to have to write
Yeah.
what you need specifically. But I'm bleeding out. You're going to have to write what blood type you are, how much blood you need. If you need, you're going to have to write everything out before we can do anything.
Write a report.
Yeah.
Look, people just don't have arms sometimes. Nothing we can do about it.
Yeah. If you're going to lose your arms, you're going to lose your arms.
It happens.
Student life office.
The fuck is a student life office?
Well, by the sounds of it, it's a place that likes to propagate rape.
And incompetence?
Just
Yeah.
absolute fucking incompetence on every conceivable level.
Kind of goes back to like our UAP episode where we started talking about incompetence. Like the higher up you go, the more incompetent people become. It almost seems like the more I hear about
I think
how
it's because
incompetent
the
shit
higher
is,
up a ladder you go,
Yeah.
the more of your duties you shift to the lower levels
yeah.
of you.
so you get lazy.
So, like, if you're the owner, everyone below you is responsible for everything while
Yeah.
you do nothing.
I know this might seem a little, I don't know, but when I read this, all I could picture in my head was Bill Cosby saying, you can write a report if it will make you feel better. Like, that's, like, these are the faces I'm applying to these individuals because to me, they're on the same level. as these individuals. Like, you are a fucking garbage human being.
Oh yeah.
If that's
100%.
how you respond to somebody who came to you like that, it's fucking disgusting.
So what is the actual point, if any, to be recording hallways and doors for safety if you're not going to use it to protect?
Because these people just want to sit on their fucking ass. They're just desk jockeys who are getting paid to just do their fucking pointless ass work. Like student
Not even
life.
do their
What do you
job.
even fucking do? Student life services? Someone goes to you with a claim like this, and your first reaction is just be like, eh.
They probably just like the cameras weren't part of the budget for 1 year, and they're just like, yeah, we need to fix the cameras. They haven't been working in 4 months. We'll fix them on Sunday.
Yeah,
Something like that,
it's
like
probably
just-
one of these fucking places where the cameras are there
they
just to dissuade people from.
they
They're
don't even
those
work.
Dollarama dome
Yeah.
fake cameras.
Once again, this is just our own conjecture. Don't know. If
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
the
this
case.
is all theory,
But
and
it takes so little. It just takes a modicum of effort to go rewind a security
Or
tape.
if you're seriously that lazy, let them do it. If you don't want to go through the footage, be like, here's a floppy. Bye.
Fucking find out who this person in charge of student life was and hit them with my floppy. Fucking idiots. It's just, you can't read that without your skin crawling. And if you can, well,
That's the campus for you.
that's the cam. Yeah.
They won't do nothing.
school run by sociopaths,
Yeah.
basically.
So I'm gonna move on to some of the stories. I just went on the petition site and extracted a few stories from there. I didn't take any particular specific ones. I just took a few of them, and I'm just gonna read them verbatim. After reporting my first sexual assault, I was ostracized, slut-shamed, and bullied by students, especially by some on the volleyball teams. I filed a formal complaint with the university against one student spreading rumors and victim shaming me. I no longer felt safe on campus, and I had suicidal thoughts. Nothing was done. A few months later, I was hospitalized for a suicide attempt. I never dared to speak out or report the other 3 times that I was raped because of how badly I was treated after reporting the first.
That's pretty fucked.
I taught in the French Studies department at Sainte Anne University from 1993 to 1996. So we're going back a long time here. I was constantly the victim of sexual harassment, not physical rape, but persecution and psychological violence because I was a woman. I was the only woman in my department, and I was more qualified than the men. There were only men in the administration, and they were hostile. I made a complaint to the Human Rights Commission, and they ruled in favor of me. The men who put me through hell had to take a course on how to treat women better. I haven't checked if they took it. For me, it was the end of my career. Too disgusted, even though I love teaching, and the students loved my classes. It was clear to me that the environment was toxic, and I knew I couldn't fight it. By the way, fuck these superfluous, shitty, nonsensical courses that they make people do. Because you want to know why? It's a fucking joke. And as soon as people sit there and they listen to some out-of-touch desk jockey present these,
On VHS.
they just laugh at them. They don't give a fuck. It's a joke. And it just trivializes the issue more. They'll make them take a class, kick their fucking ass. Kick their fucking ass out of the school.
Yeah.
Don't pay them to sit there and take these fucking stupid courses that accomplish nothing.
Because if they do it again, do you take the same course again? Like,
Pretty
do they
much,
just keep saying, no, you got to keep taking this
It
course?
reminds me of like, do either of you guys watch Superstore?
No.
Every probably 7 or 8 episodes, they say something or do something that's like pretty offensive, like socially. So then they all have to like sit in the cafeteria and watch like a video on how to like not be this way. It's objectively horrible, but the way they present it, it's like they didn't mean to really be that way or present the store in this fashion, but then they're all like, they all have to sit in on this, like, hey, we gotta not talk about like whatever the episode implied.
And I just need to really hammer home the fact that people do not take those things seriously.
Oh no.
It's a fucking joke.
Yeah.
It's the equivalent to sending a kid to fucking detention in school. I mean,
I was
what is
thinking
that?
more.
What is that
You're
actually?
suspended, go home for 4 days.
What is that actually
cool.
accomplishing? Putting a kid in detention. That's to me what it's tantamount to.
Yeah.
It's just basically all this is a way to try to obfuscate blame away from the school because they're like, well, we made them take the classes, but they
Oh,
didn't.
yeah.
They must have not have listened.
Yeah, that's all it is to say we tried.
There's
You
a
can't
fucking
blame
word.
us.
There's a word that I'm blanking on. Like,
Shit.
They like that. The way they go, but like they just throw them into a class to. Fuck, I'm drawing a blank on like the actual terminology.
Acclimate.
No, they do it for church too. Like they send like
Confessions?
no. Have you ever heard of like sending gay people to like the church camps to make them straight? Like
reform camps.
Yeah, reform. Yeah, it's basically like a reform class where they just try to like, hey, you're this way. We're gonna reform you back to like the default state of our institution.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully,
Yeah, I see what you mean.
it's basically a way to factory reset without taking blame. So, like, oh, they reformed.
So I don't. I only chose 2 stories from the site. I highly implore people to go to the petition that I'm going to link in the comments below and not only sign the petition, but also read the stories and depositions that people have posted on there.
What's the petition trying to accomplish? I don't think you've...
I'm actually going to get to that here right after this. I'm going to go through the demands that they asked for in the petition. The bare fucking minimum. And if they can't do this, it really goes to show the utter level of incompetence. I'm getting ahead of myself. So I'm going to talk about what I spoke
it's
to.
hard not to.
I spoke to about regarding my sources. So the first person I spoke to is a former student whose sister is currently enrolled at Sainte Anne's, and she's concerned for the safety of her sister. Wonder why that is. So she goes on to say, when I was there, a girl went to the student place to complain and say that she didn't feel comfortable because her rapist was in her class and she didn't feel safe on campus. Fuck. Their response was, well, rape happens, but if it'll make you feel better, you can write a letter to the dean.
Is this the same person who did the last one?
I don't know, and that scares me.
If it
even
is,
more.
that's like horrible. But if it's not, oh, that's even worse.
Okay.
Like if it's a different person saying the same shit.
Okay, but the dean probably is the person that they should go to. I will admit that in my opinion. They're supposed to be in charge and to make the last call, right?
The dean okay, so if I understand the setup, and I believe that
I would assume the
Algonquin had
dean
the
is basically
same.
the principal.
Well, okay.
They
I don't know how the hierarchy
they
works in the university.
overlook all the departments. But if a department's set up to take in these statements and to work with the students and try to rectify like a
Complaints and problems. Issues.
they're supposed to deal with it.
Oh, okay.
And if they can't deal with it,
Then it
then they
goes-
get like if there's another department that overlooks that department, then they get involved. But
Oh, okay.
the dean would be like the top.
the final boss.
Yeah, basically. And like I kind of went through the same process of when I dropped out of Algonquin. I went through the teachers first, kind of talked to them about it, and I went through the student or the faculty that overlooked like complaints and stuff like that. And then I ended up speaking directly to the dean. And the dean is like themselves was just like, yeah. Actually, it might not have been the dean of the school, but it was the dean of the department for science, like biotech.
Oh, okay.
And like once I talked to that person, they're like, yeah, like this is what we'll do, like we'll reimburse you and like sorry. Kinda. And
Okay. See,
yeah.
because I was thinking, like, if you're in school and you have a complaint, you go to the principal.
Yeah.
Even, like, the teachers can't do shit. So
Yeah.
when he said that, they were told to go to the dean, I'm thinking, well, they can't do nothing.
Yeah, I don't mean to cut you off, Aaron, but what you guys are saying is basically what I was alluding to. But Mike, what were you gonna say?
Well, the dean, I can only assume, would be on like a schedule-based day-to-day process. So like, you might not just be able to walk in like unscheduled to talk to the dean. No, maybe
they might
like
be preoccupied with other meetings.
yeah, they might be in a meeting, or they might not even be on campus.
Well, the thing he's preoccupied with definitely isn't the myriad of rape allegations
Yeah.
coming out against the
Obviously
school, which in
not.
my opinion, and doesn't matter what you're dealing with, this is pretty severe
Yeah.
and could tank the reputation of the university.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I feel like once a reputation is tainted, a dean switching out isn't gonna fix it. It's not gonna polish up that reputation once.
They need a
It's put in
restructure.
place.
This whole school needs a restructuring of staff completely.
Yeah.
But my source, who I was speaking to, goes on to say he, and then I put in brackets the student security guard, who she's referencing, also never got fired from his job or removed or expelled from the university. In my honest opinion, it's because he was an international student, and 80% of the university's funding comes from the internationals. So they probably swept it under the rug to keep them coming in. It's disgusting.
So
Yeah.
what I'm hearing is the reputation theory might be fucking on point then.
They're
And
more worried about their
I
reputation.
need to add, I have not been able to substantiate the number 80%. I don't know if that's quantifiable or not, or if that's information available elsewhere. I don't know if that's just a
number.
ballpark figure for her. But I have to say that number is quite accurate because Sainte Anne's, most of the student body there are international students, and they usually are international students with a rich pedigree,
Yeah.
like a pedigree whose family's been quite affluent.
And I believe it costs more for foreigners to go to school in like college or university settings. Like opposed to like if you were to compare a local going to, we'll say, Burge and a foreigner applying to Burge from like Israel or India or any other country.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure there is a premium cost that they have to pay, but I also feel like there's more funding towards them. So it's like, is it a money thing? Or is
Yeah,
it
there
just
might be more than
purely-
just
I think
reputation
yeah.
at play.
I think it predominantly comes down to the school placing the dollar
above the
over
students.
above the
Yeah.
safety of the students, which to me might work for them in the short term, but for the long term, it's going to destroy the way people view your university, because it doesn't matter what you guys do at this point. You have now developed this connotation, and people are always going to associate your university with rape.
Yeah.
At this point, even if you do a full restructuring, you've still fucked the way people view your university.
It'll be years before they wipe that stain off. Years. And it'll always...
There isn't enough
Show up.
magic erasers on the planet to polish the turd of a reputation that they have now incurred. Mm-hmm. Because the people in charge are a bunch of fucktards, to put it blatantly. Like, you guys are fucking useless.
Yeah.
I'd say you're shit, but at least shit does its job properly and grows fucking food. So, the media has been reporting on the 53 claims from 2015 and 2019. It's evident that the zeitgeist surrounding rape culture has transcended numerous decades, which is something I didn't know about. I thought maybe this is something that's a bit more contemporary. But like the last story I read there from one of the statements on the site, she was incurring this type of harassment throughout the 90s. So we're looking at like information dating back 30 years to show how this has just transcended multiple decades. Like this isn't something you guys should have dealt with yesterday or a year ago. This is something you should have dealt with a fucking decade ago or more. Like, you had so much time to clean your shit up, and you failed at every conceivable level. It just goes to show the level of negligence and sheer fucking incompetence at this school. And there isn't... you guys should never be allowed in any type of educational setting ever again, unless it's an education teaching you how to not be such a fucking useless idiot, if that even exists. I don't think anything like that's been contrived yet.
Yeah.
Now, another thing I'm wondering, who owns the schools? Like, who is the
Probably the
absolute-
Epstein Foundation.
Like, who's at the absolute top of this pyramid scheme of shit?
That I don't know.
I mean,
Once again,
Like, who's telling everyone to sweep it under the rug, ignore?
I mean,
or
it
is this
could
really
be-
just them?
to me, that's the
being-
dean. It still falls on the dean. I mean, he might be beholden to some higher power. I don't know. I mean, he probably is. I mean, the way these things go is built like a pyramid, and there's always
Yeah.
going to be...
I'd assume that there'd be investors.
But
and,
he's the face of this, in my opinion. So he's the one who's going to incur most of this negative press, and most of the responsibility of this is going to fall on him.
No, you're right there, yeah.
So we're going to get into the petition now. So these are the requests the petition made, which to me, this is just like the bare minimum that they could ask for. And it's more than reasonable. And these are issues that should have been ameliorated long ago. So their first thing is provide better outdoor lighting. That's pretty straightforward. I mean, that's like,
yeah.
with how much money that school brings in.
Yeah. You think that should be...
But I guess that's something they're working on, but we'll get into that soon. Provide adequate trauma-informed support to students, on-site emergency counseling services, and on-site and available psychological support and university accommodations for victims of sexual assault. Because they don't have a psychologist employed at the school. They have a counselor, and from one of the stories that I read that I can't remember where I read it from, but they went to the counselor. I think it was on the petition site. Someone actually went to the counselor and told them about, I can't remember what it was. It was trauma that they've just been struggling with mental health quite severely. And the counselor said, there's nothing I can do for you. Just told them they're a lost cause.
Well,
That
isn't a counselor at the very minimum supposed to at least point you in the right direction?
Put in
if
some form of
nothing
effort.
else.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
Here's
I
a
can't
brochure.
help you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I can't help you, but here's someone who might be able to with your specific
I'd like to
problem.
point this counselor in the right direction to go fuck themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus
And
Christ.
I know I'm getting a little bit emotionally fueled right now, but
Oh,
it's
you're not
like
the only
Yeah.
one. You're not the only one.
it just keeps getting worse, and it's going to get worse.
There's
It gets worse, Aaron.
Not better. That's the opposite of better, Aaron.
Everything about this is antithetical to better.
Yeah.
So
it feels like I'm rolling downhill. And every few feet that I'm rolling,
you
it's
hit a
like
rapist.
No, that would be good. At least I'd be taking someone out.
There's the optimism that I was looking for.
But no, it feels like you're rolling downhill, and when you start, it's grass and rocks.
Right.
It's bumpy, but then it gets smoother. Now I'm just going down a slide, and it's right smooth scaling straight towards the shit.
Yeah.
It's getting
It's like when Homer tries to jump the Springfield Gulch, and then he just like fucking falls right down, hits everything on the way down, and that's basically a good
school's
analogy for
reputation.
the
Yeah.
school's reputation, how they've been handling this.
But it almost
currently.
sounds like the school itself is starting to take that trajectory. Because, I mean, by the sounds of it, the ball's already rolling.
Oh, the balls in the
Like-
bottom of a fucking
Yeah.
porta potty right now.
Yeah. So it's just a matter of time before it snowballs into like a pretty big fucking ball.
So was that all they were asking for? Or
No,
was there
no, no.
more-
It's,
Okay,
it,
okay.
So I'm just going to go on and elaborate on this more. They want an on-site psychologist, essentially, someone who specializes in trauma. Okay, I'm going to save what I have to say later, because if not, we'll get stuck on this point for a while.
Yeah, okay.
Because, yeah, currently school only employs I don't even want to say the word guidance counselor, because so far from what I've read about them,
There's no guidance
There's no
involved.
guidance at all. The guidance is, wow,
Sorry.
that's some shit. That's some shit.
Or counselor.
you're just-
Like, what is this person?
It's like, well, essentially, you're like a piece of IKEA furniture, and I have no idea how to put you together.
Person's a fucking paycheck,
Yeah.
basically.
Way to claim income on tax forms or expenditures.
Or tax write-off for the
Yeah,
school.
yeah.
Yeah, here, sit in this room and do nothing. Okay.
So their third request, designate an office. In brackets, they put a person to handle complaints of sexual harassment and sexual assault. And I love that they had to specify a person, because I could seriously imagine them.
The school making
Wait,
up
was it
empty
not
office.
a person before?
No, there just wasn't a person. So, but I like how they had to put designate an office and then in brackets a person, because they probably just put like Chat GPT on a tablet.
It's just a fucking scarecrow sitting like at the entryway
Honestly.
with a sign.
Just Microsoft
Honestly.
Sam with a whole bunch of like pre-put responses.
No, you know what they're going to do? They're going to hire another counselor type person to be like, okay, this is your rape allegation. Don't know what to do with it. Sorry. That's what they're going to hire. If they accept that, that's what they're going to hire. They're going to take someone off the street who has no idea how to handle it and be like, you're hired.
Let me ask the head of this department. It's probably a fucking golden retriever. Like,
just a support dog.
Yeah.
I mean, at least that's a start. At least the fucking dog
support
would,
dog would be more useful.
Yep.
at this point, with the sheer prevalence of the type of debauchery that goes on here, I don't even think the dog would be safe from these fucking
No.
people.
Right. The other thing that is very concerning is, one, none of these, so far, none of their requests are outlandish, and they need a petition for them. That's crazy. And the other one is, all of them are geared towards protecting and helping someone through a rape.
Yeah.
Like, this is not going to incur a high financial cost for them.
No.
And just wait until I get to a point where I can tell you about a certain individual that they have hired there to do a specific job, but they don't have a psychologist. But I'm going to save that for later. So their fourth request, engage external consultants to review and revise trauma-informed sexual assault hearing procedures. Of course,
So that's
because
like a third party.
yes, because
Yeah.
you need to get somebody who is non-biased and non-tainted by this obviously corrupt system.
Yep. Yep.
Fifth and finally, if necessary, call on qualified and trauma-sensitive professionals via an internet link, if necessary, in the process of handling complaints of sexual assault. Once again, just have someone there
Yeah.
to help deal with people who have incurred this type
And
of
they've
thing.
even said it can be via a link.
Yeah.
They don't have to
I mean,
be...
that's how. Fuck, I'm pretty sure like Yarmouth Hospital's doing that now with doctors, aren't they? Like they sit you in a room and with a tablet, and you just talk to someone in BC. Like,
It's just all
I
this
think
is
that's here now.
all this should have been done a long time ago, and I don't like to say should have been done because we can think about how to revise the past as much as we want, but it shouldn't take petition and news coverage
Yeah.
for these sorts of changes to happen. These should just be the status quo for that universities should abide by to begin with, because unfortunately when you have these individuals in this type of setting, I hate to say it, but this type of thing is going to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to make a slight addendum to the request and say that anybody, especially those in a leadership position that were aware of this, and I stated this earlier, and failed to act on it, which they all, I think it's overwhelmingly evident that they failed
it
to act
seems
on
like
it.
everyone's
They
failed,
should
yeah.
abdicate their positions immediately. Throw them
Oh,
out the
yeah.
fucking door because you are completely inept and you've shown nothing but the definition of ineptitude when conducting your job. You all fucking suck
You failed the classes. You're fired.
on every conceivable level. You fucking suck.
Yeah.
You're shit.
I thought shit had a purpose.
It did, but it's just so satisfying to say someone's shit at something. Duty. So, with all that said, I bet you're eager to hear about how the school responded to this.
Oh, I can't wait to hear their response.
Lay it on us.
Well, now, I bet you assume that they tackled this head on. They addressed all the concerns in the petition, and they're addressing the negative connotation now being associated with their school.
Oh, I bet they're
And they
ignoring
took
it.
full accountability.
Nope.
Nope.
Absolutely not. They
Surprise.
I'll give you a hint. I'll give you a hint of what they did. They said words.
Did they make sense?
They definitely said words.
Did they filibuster it?
Let's go on. In a brief statement to Global News, University Sainte Anne spokesperson Rachel LeBlanc said, "We fully support the RCMP's appeal to the public for information related to the alleged historical sexual assaults." What are you gonna-
Historical.
It goes on, but what are you going to say? No? We don't support it? That's the only way you could possibly make this response any worse. Are you going to tell the victims, maybe
We don't support them.
we don't support that?
So basically saying like, hey, we're aware of this happening. Like RCMP.
They're prancing
Good job.
around the topic so
Yeah.
far. Like they're not acknowledging it whatsoever.
They're being political on it.
She also pointed to a statement posted to the school website Tuesday asking that any of the victims or anyone who has knowledge of sexual assault while at University Sainte Anne report the incident. It sounds like that's what people have been doing for the last, fucking 10 years, you fucking twit. Report it to who? Because as far as I can tell, everybody that you report this type of thing to is a fucking smooth-brained idiot who doesn't give a fuck about the safety nor the concerns of any of the students. So why the fuck would they continue to talk to any
Yeah.
of you fucking idiots?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because so far it seems like that's gone really well for them.
Yeah.
Who do they report it to? They don't even fucking say that. Who do you go talk to?
Please report it. To who?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Whoever you want to.
Yeah, they probably just point to a paper shredder and say, yeah, you know that 20-page report you filed? Just put it in there.
Somebody will read it. Eventually. Maybe.
And by the sounds of it, there's a lot of people who had knowledge this was happening at the university. A lot of people. It's every person I've spoke to that knows about the school, lives close to the school, or have went to the school. Everybody knows about it. So can we stop pretending like this is some clandestine phenomena?
Yeah.
Fucking useless. The public statement said sexual violence prevention is a priority for the school as the academic year begins.
What about throughout the academic year? Towards the end of it.
We're
like-
just going to worry
Yeah.
about it at the start of the year. We'll give a
Here's-
few of these useless fucking seminars.
Everyone has to take part in sensitivity training for the first day of university, and after
We'll
that,
post a
just-
few signs that say,
Yeah.
"Don't rape everyone."
Yeah.
Just to
Yeah.
drive the point home.
You shouldn't need Mr. Mackey to say rape is bad, okay? It's
Rape is bad, okay?
okay.
Don't do it.
Just say it out loud. There's a process that I do. If something seems like it could be a bad idea or something doesn't sound right, say it out loud so you can hear it yourself. Should we keep a person who's been accused of 17 rapes employed at our school and let them continue being a student here? No!
Yeah.
If you have any trepidation thinking about that, you're fucking retarded.
Yeah.
Not even like the endearing kind of retard. You're just a fucking retard.
But you're missing something they probably also said out loud that swayed that. And lose the $200,000 they gave us to be here.
Or a conspiracy alert.
I'm pretty sure if someone gets expelled, they don't get their money back. So they'd still get to keep the fucking money.
Or conspiracy alert. He's got a lot more on them than they have on him.
Oh, yeah.
But
Okay, let's get through this report.
conspiracy.
We assure you that this file remains a priority for the academic year, which is beginning, it said in French. The recent campaign on social networks, as well as certain texts published in the media, slightly precede our intention to communicate with you. Get fucked! You duplicitous, lackadaisical fucktards. Procedure and intention. This has been known for years. The only thing that preceded you is your own inept, fucking, incapable ass to deal with this. And to me, that seems like they're trying to blame other people. They're just completely devoid of any accountability. Don't obfuscate your fucking negligence by acting like this is just materialized out of thin fucking air.
Yeah.
I mean, this, when I read this, it was so difficult to do without just laughing at how depressing it was. The way the school treats victims and the way that it seems like women in general are treated there is pathological. This ethos is going to take a lot of reform to remedy, if it's even possible. I mean, they can work at it. At least it'd be showing some initiative. But the only initiative they've shown so far is just sheer ineptitude. And that's the common theme and the common word.
Just so ingrained in that culture of that location.
Okay. It said the school has almost completed a revision of its sexual violence policy. Is participating in provincial committee for preventing sexual violence and working on modifying light on campus.
So they allow it before?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's
We're
like
working on our sexual. Well, how did you start that? Sorry, the beginning of it.
It says the school has completed a revision of sexual violence policy.
Yeah. In other words, we're finally getting to writing one.
Yeah. We have to put what's wrong into words correctly so that people will understand it when they go to court because of this.
But wait, guys, good news. They're working on the lighting. The easiest thing to deal with is to put some fucking lights in, and they're finally doing it.
We're finally going to replace the 50-year-old burnt-out light bulbs on campus.
How about get new cameras?
Or get any.
How about just get someone to
Yeah.
deal with the students who doesn't rape them?
You know what? Hire me and give me a paintball gun with pepper balls in it. I will gladly shoot people. Oh, you got a problem? That person looked at you funny? I'm going. Just a trigger-happy security guard happily... What? Happily going to shoot perpetrators. Happily.
He'll be like, what's his name there? Jeff from the fucking Gallagher's. What's that show? Shameless.
Shameless.
When he goes to the university, he breaks up from V, and he goes to the university and he becomes the hall protector, but he ends up getting laid more than he's protecting. It just backfires on you.
Oh, yeah.
Also want to add, there's a huge difference between making a policy and enforcing it. You can write all the fucking policies you want, but if you don't have anybody there to enforce the policies, what's the point? It's like having a set of laws for a country to follow, but there's no fucking police. It's so asinine and obtuse to me that this has allowed to proliferate to the extremes that it has. Still no one's talking about it. Not enough anyway. But I can assure you we're going to continue to poke and prod, because if there's one thing I excel at as a human being, it's able to annoy anything that's alive. And I swear I will fucking annoy the shit out of you people until you
quality of Ryan.
I know, it's great, isn't it?
It's fucking awesome.
I'm absolutely useless at everything except annoying people. It's quite a skill. But another request made by the students was better lighting. So I have to say, at least they're
doing the bare minimum.
They're doing the bare minimum there. But here's another one. I want everybody to listen really closely. Don't hire rapists and don't condone rape. Just a thought. It's also encouraged students take part in consent and intervention.
Wait, what? Consent and intervention?
It's also encouraged students take part in consent and intervention skills training, which is being offered at the start of academic year. Only
So it is
that for-
sensitivity training.
only
that
if
for
the rapist asks for consent. We figured it out, guys. We found the way to stop rape.
Oh man, you could
We did it.
you could put that like towards
What
like
the-
murder and
Yeah.
robbing,
Just say no.
stealing.
God, just say no. That's all you got to do.
They were for, I'm going to rape you now.
No, you can't.
Like, is
oh,
that,
okay?
yeah.
It's like that
Seen
scene.
in a seminar.
It's like, did you guys ever see the movie Seven Psychopaths?
no.
There's a meme about it on the internet where
Are they
Christopher
all,
Walken's going down a road and then people aim a gun at him. They're like, "Stop what you're doing there." He's like, "No." And they're like, "But I got a gun." He's like, "So?" And they're like, "We could shoot you." He's like, "Too bad. I don't want to." And they're like, "Oh." And they just don't know what to do about it. It doesn't work like that. In reality, you can offer all the fucking... I like the wording here. We got to pay attention to the wording. It's encouraged. It's not even mandatory!
yeah.
You people are so...
Oh, so you don't even have to take it.
No, it's just encouraged.
Oh my fuck.
I encourage you to not be so fucking useless. Take the thousands of dollars you people get in tuition and do something. Don't just make these fluff piece seminars that people don't even have to take.
Do you know
I wonder-
what? It is painfully obvious why 80% of their funding is foreigners now, because they can come over here and rape other students and get away with it. Scuff. Not saying that's all foreigners. I am not saying that's all foreigners, but it's painfully obvious that if there's less repercussions for them, it could become more prevalent.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
Reading this makes me have to take a shit.
like when we get into our kind of personal thoughts on it, we'll get back to that one. Because I've got a theory on, well, not really a theory, but kind of like an input.
I can't
what I
even
think might
read
be
that
incorrect.
without...
Conspiracy theory.
It's just inciting a fucking gag
probably.
reflex.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, it's just so shit.
I can't believe that they encouraged. Like, why don't they just
Consent and intervention skills training.
that should be like a class at this
That's a
point.
So
fucking...
is that basically a class for common fucking sense?
It's a fucking joke and no one's laughing. That's what it is. It's just the punchline. Being offered at the start of the academic... I have to keep rereading it because it's just the sheer volume of just fucking retardation coming from this. And, this is all it is. It's... All this is just PR farts.
Yeah.
It's just something that they hire someone who has no connection to the situation whatsoever. By the looks of it, this person isn't even fully aware or even care to be aware of the volume and severity of these claims. And all you do is you just write some fucking superfluous, meretricious garbage on a piece of paper and you go out and you fart it out at the fucking media. And just like every other corporate fucking response to things, it stinks like shit, and that's why I call it PR farts. You guys are just making yourself look worse. You've dug a hole so deep that you just throw your fucking selves in it at this point.
Yeah.
You guys have just shown that you don't give a modicum of a fuck about the students. You don't give a fuck about the victims. And you don't even seem to really give much of a fuck about making any actual reform, because this is one of the most pathetic PR responses I've read in my 30 miserable years on this shit ass of a rock.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Like, these seminars that you guys offer are more useless than pockets on women's pants.
That's pretty bad. Most of them are just stitched on.
They can't even hold cell phones anymore. You know how precarious cell phones look dangling out of the back of their pockets? Encouraged. I encourage you to go fuck yourself. And the thing I want to hammer home about is that, by the way, that's That's the whole response.
Okay.
Wait, what?
That's
That's
it.
it?
That's it. It's
They address nothing
It's
at all, really.
devoid of empathy,
Yeah.
sympathy, and accountability.
So they basically went minimalist.
It's
route.
just something that's been shat out by an out-of-touch desk jockey, and they should be fucking ashamed of themselves.
That is pathetic. That is...
But that summarizes the situation at Sainte Anne so far. So, hearkening back to earlier, when we were talking about how there is no on-site psychologist, do you want to know what there is, though? Do you want to know an actual position there? They have an officer of diversity and inclusion, but they don't have an on-site psychologist.
Priorities, man. Priorities.
Sorry,
All
I'm
you
allergic
people
to all
care
this
about
bullshit.
isn't enough fucking Benadryl to fix that shit. This, having someone with this type of contrived,
Excuse me.
once again, meretricious position is so fucking obvious that they're just trying to. They're
Have
trying
tax write-offs?
No, not trying to get tax write-offs, but they're trying to submit to the status quo and be like, look how inclusive we are. Great. So let's get everybody of every type of gender and every type of religion and every type of cultural background. Let's get them all into our school so they can all be raped equally. Let's share the trauma around. Everybody, it's like Oprah, you get trauma, you get trauma, you get trauma.
Yeah.
That pisses me off on so many levels that they have someone like this who's probably earning a pretty substantial paycheck,
For next to nothing.
But they can't do a fucking psychologist.
but they don't have a fucking psychologist.
When they know the issue. When they know they need one.
You
Yeah.
people are so vain and fucking pathetic. It's embarrassing.
Do they have a psychology program?
That I don't know. I can't answer
Because
that.
that would be even fucking worse. If they had a psychology program without a psychologist.
Look it up. Just search up St. Anne's University psychologist. We'll do it.
gotta
Fuck
be
it. We'll do it live in the
gotta
words of
be
Bill
a-
O'Reilly, who's also
Be
a piece of shit.
program.
Fucking hell. But I know we're really hammering home on St. Anne's right now.
Somebody's got to.
And I agree. Because the sheer amount of claims and accusations coming out at such a small university of 400 people, on average 400 people, is fucked. But once again, this is Brian Gibson talked about in his article, and we've talked about it throughout this episode so far. This is much more indicative of a much more pervasive issue and ethos amongst universities in general, because 1 in 10 women encounter sexual assault at Canadian universities or secondary schools in general.
Unless
So-
you're at University of St. Anne, then
That's
more
11.
than that.
That's 11%. If you're looking for a percent of it, and 4% are men who incur this type of behavior. So it's obviously that work in all of Canadian schools is necessary. And once again, I'm going to refer to something I said earlier, where I know of people who have had stuff like this happen to them at other universities. So I'm not really someone in the position to even begin to say what they should do about it. But they need to find someone who does know. Mike, did you find a psychology?
They do not have a psychology program.
Good.
Yeah.
Because everybody who works at this school should attend it so they can at least figure out how fundamentally fucked they are
Yeah.
and how anemic of values and morality they are. But, Mike, do you have anything you want to add to this?
So they do have social work. So wouldn't that be like social workers?
Social workers a bit.
Kind of.
I mean, yeah, to me that falls in the same
category, I guess.
Yeah,
A realm of like you're supposed to be helping individuals with issues and protecting.
but it seems like the staff themselves, because like I said about Brian Gibson,
Yeah.
he was unaware of how severe this is. And like we've said before, unfortunately, when you get people involved, especially people from different cultural backgrounds, and you get people in and alcohol's involved, alcohol breaks down people's barriers. And definitely need to mention that I'm not making an excuse and saying, well,
Yeah.
alcohol, that's not what I'm making an excuse at all, but alcohol tends to elicit those tendencies, those primordial, repugnant, dark pieces of people.
And that goes for more than just like the topic that we're covering. Like you put alcohol into any situation,
And
regardless
you're bound
of
to become more of a fucking idiot.
yeah,
Yeah.
regardless if you're male, female, anywhere in between. Like doesn't matter what you're doing. Once you lose like your normal, I guess,
Cognitive abilities.
yeah, like you're basically increasing the chances of something going wrong. And
Whether for
being,
you or someone else.
yeah, and being completely out of your control. Because if you're not actually conscious of what you're doing, like when you get blackout drunk and you can't remember what you did, that's not you piloting your meat suit. Like
I also want to add that thanks to Canadians' infallible justice system.
Oh, you're going to mention the new law that's getting
apparently,
passed?
if you are drunk and you commit a crime, it's a viable defense.
Yeah.
Just want to put that out
Which
there.
is bullshit.
So, I also want to put a big fuck you to our government currently, who implements these policies, like our current policies regarding catch and release. Canada's crime rate has absolutely skyrocketed, and the only people who are incurring the wrath of the negligence of our government is just the average Canadian.
Victims.
yeah,
And we're just making more victims. And Canada does not have the mental health capabilities to obfuscate the amount of traumas being incurred, especially after COVID. But I'm not going to go down that tangent because
We should just burn down all the prisons and incur death penalty
no, the problem is that there's no one being sent.
instantly.
There's no one being sent to prison.
Yeah.
No one's staying in prison. And then you have things like this where the evidence is overwhelming. I mean, it's really you can't call into question 17 people being raped by one person. I mean, that's just not going to happen.
yeah.
This isn't just make-believe fucking fiction. This is things that the school was fully aware of
It is
And they can-
blatantly disregarded.
and have blatantly disregarded and have further propagated the ethos of rape culture at the school. And this is what the school is now known for. Every time I hear St. Anne's, that's what I'm going to think about. And I hope that's what everybody else thinks about. Because someone, cause like, I don't want to come off as being indignant, but like I've said, that I know people who have been affected by this same sort of culture. And it seems like there's no end in sight for the amount of people having this trauma inflicted on them, and pieces of shit who continue to get away with it. There's no accountability, and there's no justice. There's barely any justice in Canada anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And what little justice that could be taken, you need to fight for it. And I'm hoping that by us at least doing this, even though like I know that we're not prolific in any way, in any sense, but as long as, if we can make one other person aware of it, to me, I've done my job.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm grateful for. See, we're not beholden to global news. We're not beholden to legacy media where they don't actually do any real fucking journalism and attempt to hold these people accountable. Because in my opinion, what global news did, yes, they brought more eyes on the topic, but that's all they did. It ends there. They didn't actually do any more due diligence outside of that. They didn't ask them any questions, and they did not grill this sorry excuse of a fucking PR person who probably doesn't know their ass from a hole in the ground anyway. So, do you guys have anything to add to that? About the whole situation in general, or the whole culture in general, or...
Oh, the culture's fucked. I mean, I could only assume that this is happening damn near every institution. Like, it's... And, I mean, 400 people? If this is happening to, what, 10% of the... did you say 53?
50, that'd be about...
In a year?
10
Or
to
was
13?
this
That's-
in multiple years?
That's between 2015 to 2019.
Okay,
Those are the ones
so-
that have come forward. Like I said, that number's tentative.
Yeah.
That's 13.25 rapes a year. On average.
That's a high percentage of...
Now, but does that
Or is that
also
just not
count
number?
repeated rapes to the same person?
Don't know. See,
'Cause that could be another...
currently everything is done under anonymity
Yeah.
with good reason, because
The school's incompetent and does nothing.
right now the only person who's actually putting their name with this and espousing themselves with this topic is Brian Gibson. That's why I think he deserves an immense amount of credit for coming forward.
Yeah.
So I thought it would be interesting if we all went through the Sainte Anne's website and browsed it together. Maybe to see if they have taken any more steps, and maybe, I don't know, some accountability somewhere, maybe something that they're doing or acknowledging the situation. So let's go on the website together and take a gander, peruse the Sainte Anne's website. Welcome to Sainte Anne family. Oh, sweet. It's a family, guys. It's like Vin Diesel in the Fast and the Furious, except I don't remember any scene from Fast and the Furious where rape happened.
I mean, to be fair, if you look at the global statistics on sexual assault, they do occur mainly in families. I think the higher percentage occurs in.
You're not
family.
helping, Mike.
So I mean, at least they're matching global statistics. Just saying.
All right, let's read how
Jokes aside, yeah.
let's read how we can get involved with the Sainte Anne family. You are about to discover what University Sainte Anne can offer you. Trauma! Get involved in various activities on campus or take advantage of a volunteer opportunity like maybe working for student security. Study at a university that uses 4 renewable energy sources to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by more than 90%. Not 1, not 2, not 3. They got 4 renewable energy sources, guys. One of those is probably tears. Number 3, play on a competitive team or take advantage of the newly renovated sports center and our trails in the woods to live an active life. I recommend staying away from the woods right now.
Yeah.
Don't know why. I get this bad inclination.
Yeah.
There's something foreboding about going into
And
the
I
woods
feel like
right now.
the competitive that they're talking about isn't who can rape the most.
It's so like we're not making jokes out of it. It's just so fucking sad.
We're trying to deal with this, like,
Humorally.
yeah.
try to inject maybe a little bit of levity to it, but it's just how blatant and sad this is that they just participating in research projects for your first year, like maybe what to do after you're raped would be a good one, and maybe make it mandatory, because obviously this is a very pervasive issue at your school.
It's really hard not to turn everything that he's saying so far into something it shouldn't be.
Number 5, benefit from personal support, where your teachers know you by your first name and care about your success.
They care about your success, just not if you've been raped or not. That's all.
Yeah, okay, we don't deal with that here. Fill out this form. And if you want, maybe we can go to the police. Our university, equity, diversity, inclusion. Oh, this should be good. Oh, awesome. They got the Rainbow Road here and everything. All they need is fucking Peach driving down the Rainbow Road when she slips on a banana peel and careens into the wall, and then Bowser and his Koopas get out and rape her. They're not doing anything to work on the pervasive issue that is currently happening in their school. All they're doing on their website is saying, look at how many checkboxes we can tick off so we look good. That's all this is, and it's so fucking blatant and obvious, and it just pisses me off.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
They do not care about you as an individual. They care about their public image, and that's where you need to hit them. Because they are so blinded by trying to maintain this fallacy of a fucking positive, all-inclusive public image that they need to be called out on it. They can put all the diverse people they want walking down the LGBTQ fucking Abbey Road. It doesn't make a difference because they have a much more severe issue at hand than making sure that they're adhering to some left-leaning status quo. If you want to adhere to that and promote those values on your site, I have no problem with that. Whatever, fucking fill your boots. But when you have an issue with serial rapists and raping at your school, you have a much larger issue to tackle than all these fucking boxes that you're trying to tick off.
Yeah.
And I should not have to tell you that. Word from the rector. The fundamental values associated with equity, diversity, and inclusion are at the heart of the mission of University Sainte Anne. Our large international student population, our proud Acadians, the members of our community who participate in different identity communities who come from varied social, cultural backgrounds, all of us contribute to making Sainte Anne an environment of unique living, learning, and working environment. The institutional strategy of equity, diversity, and inclusion at the University of Sainte Anne confirms our commitment to social justice.
So
Fuck
basically,
you. He spelled it out right there.
So basically, they're including rapists, and yeah, they're not punishing them.
All they care about is social justice, but not actual justice.
But at least they're including rapists.
Our university senate. Okay, this should be good. The Senate University as a committee of council of governors. University Senate is defined as an assembly exercising decision-making power regarding academic matters. Its management structure reflects collegiality and ensures the greater participation of professors, librarians, and students. So all these people right here, or at least most of them, we've got the rector and president of the Senate. We've got the vice rector and teaching and research. We got the vice rector for administration, the register, the dean of faculties, and the management of academic apartments. In my opinion, all these people right here are the faces of this whole situation, and they're the ones who are going to incur the most of the public scrutiny, with good reason, because there seems like there's a lot of people in here, and you're telling me, you cannot tell me that none of these people were unaware of this situation. I definitely know the dean was, or the rector, because the people I've spoken to spoke that they sent him letters or they addressed him in some way, shape, or form. And like I said, if you're the dean of something like a university like this, you know what's going on.
Or you should. Yeah.
You should at least know, and especially to something to this severity. There's no way you were that ignorant.
No.
And even if you were that ignorant, that still justifies you leaving that position, because it just shows you're incapable and inept at carrying out those duties. I can't look at this fucking site anymore because it's garbage, and all it does is it's just trying to abide by this contrived ethos that they're using it as propaganda to obfuscate away from much bigger issues. In my opinion, they're basically just saying, look how inclusive we are, look how diversive we are, and it just means
the perfect school.
Nothing. In fact, Mike found some interesting information that you want to recite about that statistics that you found.
So I found like we kind of talked about how they were being inclusive and trying to diversify their range of people coming in. And I mean, you'd think like just a quick Google search, it was sexualassaultsupport.ca. Uh, One of the first things that comes up is 70% of trans youth in Canada have experienced sexual harassment, and that's more than one third of trans youths ages 14 to 18 share they were physically threatened or injured in the past year. So you'd think that, and that's just one group of inclusive people. You'd think that with those statistics, if every campus is going towards this more inclusive transitioning stage, you'd think that they would have the proper support
For that specific,
for
yeah.
those people. And I mean, another page that I opened up was like marginalized young people from marginalized sexual and racial groups. So again, more inclusive. And it just like the more I read, it First Nations, Inuits, and Métis people in Canada are at increased risk of violence, both just in general and sexual assault. Like it's you think that they would have set up a system that helps.
You guys can promote
Yeah,
these claims all you want, and you can propagate the fact that you're open and you're diverse, but the statistics he's presenting, sure, they're not directly aimed at Sainte Anne's University. This is just at Canadian universities in general. But that tells me that they're probably fucking up on this too. They're touting their diversity and they're using that as an obvious selling point for the university. But I can almost guarantee you, with how malevolent things are at this school, that these people are also a target of these types of things. So it doesn't matter what you're doing. You just fucked up.
Let's do another statistic. Reasons people cite for not reporting these instances. 56%, like all of the percentages that they show, and this is like Canada wide, is like roughly 50. So 56% felt like the crime was too minor. 53% felt the incident was not important enough. 49% didn't want to hassle with dealing with the police. 48% felt it was too private or personal. And these are statistics from 2021.
Yeah, see, this kind of harkens back to what I said earlier. It's like a state of cognitive dissonance that they get themselves in, and we really have to state that most of the students at Sainte Anne's, like the majority of the students at Sainte Anne's, are from other countries. So that puts them in even more of a predicament to begin with when they want to even report something like this, because they have literally nobody. And right now they have nobody who's fighting for them. They have nobody who's standing up for them. The school's not doing it. And in their bullshit, piss-ass, sorry excuse of a PR response, they tout, oh, come report it to the school. There's no one there who gives a fuck at the school. There's no one here on staff by the looks of it, except for Brian Gibson and probably a few other of his co-workers. That because I don't want to denigrate, I'm not applying every teacher at Sainte Anne's under this basket of deplorables, because I don't think that's the case at all. That's just like saying all police are bad. That's not the point that I'm making. The point that I'm making is that this is a very systemic issue, not just in the school, but in Canadian universities in general.
I'm also wondering, like, where they're predominantly more, like, international student-based. I'm wondering if that would increase the likelihood of something of these instances occurring because of like cultural differences and just how they in their home region, maybe that's the norm, and like they haven't progressed to what we view as like our
What you're saying is that
standards.
this could be indicative of misogyny,
Yeah.
depending on the countries that they're coming from.
Or I mean, even like the laws.
And once again,
Like you have to.
I feel like we shouldn't need to stress this
Yeah.
because I feel like it's quite obvious that this is just
Yeah.
conjecture at the moment because it's something that needs to be considered.
But I mean, you have to realize that going into other countries, you have to adhere to their laws. So you can't just go to a country and think, okay, what I did in Canada will be okay doing here. Like, no, some of the things that we do here probably is frowned upon or may even be downright illegal in other countries. And the same thing occurs from their countries. Like, you look at age limits on marriage or just relationships. You look at a series of
those-
countries, they're all different.
Those vary substantially
Yeah.
from country to country.
And like we're fairly progressive in terms of like our age limit is fairly high compared to other countries. And I know a lot of like just using that as a reference, people come over to Canada thinking that, oh, this is okay, and it's not okay. But from where they come from, it's perfectly fine.
It's generally
Yeah, so it's
part
like
of everyday
you
life.
take that kind of thought process and you put it into like international
and
students and abroad.
I feel like I also need to point that's probably not the concept of rape. You're talking about in general the way.
Yeah,
that
I'm
some
just talking about like
places
just
view-
mindsets.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
way that some cultures may
Yeah.
view women differently.
Exactly, yes. And it might bleed over into some of these statistics where like in their country that behavior might be just not justified. Fuck. It might be
More
might not be
accepted.
not penalized or I guess accepted. Yeah.
Maybe
but-
not necessarily accepted, just
I don't know how to
less
word
Not seen as a
less
big
abhorrent.
deal.
Yeah,
in
I
a
don't know
way.
how to word it properly to get across what I'm trying to say, but yeah, they I'm just wondering if
It's something. It's definitely an aspect that needs to be looked into because if you do have people coming from countries with different sets of values and that sort of thing, they need to acclimate to a our, I guess, what our culture would see as more accepted and stuff, and
it's like religions and just
things in general to make
Regional-based,
and include everybody, so everybody's fully aware, not just people from the other countries, but people who are also native
Yeah.
to Nova Scotia. Don't make it fucking optional. Make it mandatory that people go in and they can learn about other cultures and how
Yes,
different cultures
yes.
view people. Don't make it this superfluous optional fluff piece that people are going to go and fucking laugh at and joke about later that no one takes seriously. Mm-hmm. Because so far, all this looks like to me, to you guys, is that it's just a fucking joke.
yeah.
And it's disgusting. And I don't know. I think I'm going to end it there. I'm just
Brain's
so
going to a dark place.
it's just fucking
Blood is boiling.
I can just feel my brain turning into just shit porridge.
To add on to what like the whole cultural thing, you have to take into account that most of these are young people, young adults, I guess. So they're in the what I would assume to be the horniest stage of their life where they can't their brains haven't developed to be like, oh, this is right, this is wrong, this is hormone driven fucking dimwits running around trying to prime their life or prep their life for success, and it's just like
If they know that there's not going to be any justice
Yeah.
for the actions they commit, they basically just galvanizes them to further abdicate their sense of morality.
and if
Because they don't fucking care. Because why should they fucking care? Because they're not going to be held accountable.
the campuses and the institutions aren't doing anything about this behavior that seems to be relevant damn near on every campus, it seems, then it's just gonna keep festering and there's no remedy that I can see occurring unless they start educating people more on like, hey, this is bad behavior. If you,
And that's where it starts.
Yeah.
It starts with education.
yeah,
That's a good place to begin.
yeah,
Meet the demands, exceed the demands
yeah,
of the petition, and then start trying to figure out how to educate people, and not with these I just can't stress enough how useless these seminars are, because no one takes them seriously. There needs to be a better way to approach it. But all we know is that change needs to happen now, and they should not have even began a school year under these current circumstances. No. Because until actual change starts to be implemented, you are further putting more students at risk, and you're further jeopardizing more people so you can meet your bullshit fucking superficial bottom line. That doesn't matter at the moment. What matters is you guys actually take accountability and you actually start trying to figure out how to ameliorate this, because you guys have got a fuck ton of work to do. And I hope with this petition coming out, and I hope with more eyes getting on this, that more people will feel comfortable to come forward and work towards figuring out some type of conclusion to this, or some way to ameliorate it, at least at Sainte Anne's. And then I think this is part of a much broader issue in general that needs to be tackled.
yeah.
But on that note, I gotta go fucking take a nap and probably take a shit, because I'm just so fucking...
Just shit, throw up.
It's just so exhausting that we even need to talk about this, because we shouldn't need to talk about it.
No, it never should have been an issue.
But we are going to keep on top of this. If there's any further leads or further accusations, if there's any type of movement on this matter, we'll definitely be making another video on it. Because there's one thing I can say about us is we're tenacious, and we're not going to let this go. We're not going to let it fall victim to the 24-hour news cycle. Thanks, guys.